This is a highlight of the Off Topical podcast. Listen for free to the whole episode at offtopical.net. Okay, this genealogy site is now sharing their genetic information with the FBI. This is the last story. I saved the worst one for last. Holy crap, this is the military-industrial complex that we were warned about. What do you think about this?
The military-industrial complex.
It is.
I don't know if I'd call it the military-industrial complex, but definitely, hey, we're entering into a dystopian future.
Yeah.
Definitely that. Definitely that.
Yeah. So this company, FamilyTreeDNA, has granted the FBI access to its genetic profile database, and this more than for free, right? This more than doubles their genetic information that the agency has access to, and it's estimated that the FBI only needs about 2% of the population's DNA to be able to reliably match any sample from the country. That's phenomenally scary. Yeah.
Reliably. I mean, have you noticed how some of these companies tend to like screw up genetic sampling?
Yes.
Like you can have like people that are related and they'll come back like not related, which is beyond me how that even works.
Right. Well, like there was a report from the CBC that came out a little while ago where identical twins sent samples that were taken at the exact same time to these companies, and the results that they got back were totally different. Not totally different, but pretty different. Enough to raise an eyebrow or two. And the idea that like these companies are doing any kind of real science is laughable, in my opinion. Like they're basically putting these like spit samples into a machine to get the genetic code out, and then they're literally just running it through an algorithm that's reading the entrails of a chicken. It's so stupid.
At least human DNA cannot be patented or anything in the United States.
Yet.
It cannot be owned. No, it can't. It's already been ruled. It cannot be owned.
Yeah.
In the United States.
I like that.
But just because it can't be owned, you can still build a database on it. So it's like that only solves one problem. It doesn't solve all of the problems. But, I mean, I found this to be just absolutely just disgusting. Because these companies, I'm going to keep my tinfoil hat on because, my tinfoil hat makes me feel better. Okay?
Yeah, well, I'm going to put one on too here.
You're going to have to, because I'm about to go absolutely crazy off the deep end here. It wouldn't surprise me if some of these companies are shell companies for, some branch of like the CIA or whatever, just to quote unquote legally gather the country's DNA as a backdoor.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me.
That doesn't seem implausible to me.
No.
Because that's the thing. Like if this were like if 23andMe or Family DNA were like public part of the government, then the FBI and the NSA and all these companies would not have as much access to it as they do because they're privately held companies. And Family Tree. So this is the thing that really kind of gets my goat about this, is that this isn't the first time that the FBI has had access to this kind of information, but the first time they did, they had a warrant. This time, this company volunteered to have the FBI have access to this information, and it's like, what? Why would they do that?
Also, I'm surprised HIPAA laws don't come into play here.
Right. I mean, I completely agree. Like, I don't think that this company technically counts as a medical institution.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
But they definitely should.
Yes, it should, because they're storing your DNA. It flat out doesn't. I mean, I already know the government has a DNA database. There's been numerous cases across the country where the government has, set up like roadblocks and have actually forcibly taken people's DNA.
Yes.
Which is illegal.
Yeah.
But they do it anyway because the government never punishes itself. So, it's just like, I feel like that all these companies popping up, like, what is it, Ancestry Tree, Family Tree DNA, they always have like crazy, like, oh, look, like, you can send us your data, and then we'll like tell you if you're like, like where you're from and your nationality, if you're Irish or, and it's like, to me, I've always been suspicious of those companies, because it's like, no. Because, like,
No.
for starters, I don't care about that in the first place. Like, why would I care about that? Like, it doesn't matter. No. But for some people, maybe it does. But so many people send in these DNA tests, and it's just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, it's recreational approximations of science, and what you get for what you give is tragically terrifying. What really bothers me, what spooks me about this, right, is that like someone who's innocent might get swept up in an investigation here, and these companies offer the FBI access to this database, but who's to say who's doing the record keeping, that the samples didn't get mixed up, that the machine that like actually reads the genetic code is calibrated properly, that they care at all about being accurate with their results. And then the other thing that really blows my mind is the fact that like people are so ill-informed when it comes to like forensics, right? Thanks to like CSI and NCIS and other, procedural propaganda shows. It really, that kind of stuff gives the wrong impression to jurors who think that like, oh, DNA evidence is infallible. That's not true. Like, there are many instances of DNA being mixed up, or multiple people's DNA in the same crime scene, and people get swept up into this narrative of that the attorneys are, the prosecutors are bringing to them, and they say, and we have DNA evidence, even though they don't necessarily. It's I don't know. Like, this whole thing is just humbug to me.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree. I just cannot believe that this company would just willingly do it. And the company got a lot of backlash, and they responded, and their response was basically, they only get specific information, and they have to provide blah 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 blah. And I'm like, no, what they need to do is provide a damn warrant.
Yep.
Like, they need a warrant, because they need like that shield. Because honestly, why would you trust Family Tree to not just give them everything? Like, why not?
Right.
Like, can anyone honestly, willingly tell me like why they would, you know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
No,
it's crazy.
I don't understand why they're doing this. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, why give it out? Also, they're a business, like, which means their goal is to make money. Why would they give it out for free? They get nothing from this. Right. The FBI doesn't care about them. That's like, that's why I like to put my tinfoil hat on, and it's like, it's very suspicious that they're just doing it for free.
No, I completely agree. I don't understand this. Like, you need a warrant. You need, and the fact that like I said earlier, the FBI only needs 2% of the population's DNA samples in order to reliably match anyone in the country. And it's like, they have 2 million people. FamilyTreeDNA has 2 million people on record, and the FBI had about 1 or 1.5 million genetic samples that they had access to previously. What does that come to in the United States? That's 3.5% ish. There's like 400 million. Yeah, there's like 400 million. So yeah, it's about 1%. So it's like, we're approaching singularity, dude.
If you figure the entire federal and all the state government's DNA databases from criminals, that's probably a few million. Yeah. And then you combine it with, imagine if they got access to all the different DNA companies, they could probably be looking at somewhere between 10 to 20 million. Yeah. Because there's a lot of different of those DNA companies, and I doubt everyone submits to multiple ones. So, if each one has a million or two, plus, the FBI on its own probably has a fairly big database, combined with both federal and, state databases. They probably have quite a sizable chunk. They're probably already at 2%, at least 2 to 3%.
Well, the thing is, like, a lot of like this, I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure that most of the state-run databases don't actually communicate with the federal DNA database because of like the way that the regulation is between government agencies. that's like why I don't know. This kind of, but you're right about the fact that like they have access to a lot of information, and I think part of the reason that they legalized marijuana in a lot of these places is because in order to test people, you have to take a blood sample. Like that's, to test if they're driving intoxicated on weed, and it's like that's incredibly invasive, and it should not be allowed under any circumstance, even if
it's the only way to test for it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, it actually is the only way to test if you're high on it or not.
Maybe people shouldn't be high.
Well, maybe people, but it's true. But also too, I don't think very many people have actually been pulled over for being high.
They're training. That's true, but they're training like police officers how to draw blood, and that is not okay.
Yeah. Well, you know why that is, don't you?
Why?
Because don't you remember that one nurse who got arrested for refusing to do a blood test?
Oh yeah.
Because in order to get a medical professional to do a blood test at like a hospital or whatever, they have to have a warrant.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, that was like there was like a huge video where the woman got arrested and everything.
However, if officers go through the same training, then and they do actually have to go under like the same training. Like they don't just get taught how to draw blood. They actually get taught a fair bit because of they have to pass a certain test or whatever. So not all the officers are taught that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you only need like one or two to do it. So
right.
You don't really need that much. So yeah, I mean they're being trained either that or they have to have someone on staff in order to do it. And it's just cheaper to just send an officer, for a few months, to meet the requirements to do it. It's just cheaper. They get a little bit of extra money and, they have someone on hand that will do it.
It's just that kind of stuff should not be legal.
No, they should need a warrant. But the main reason they also do that sort of stuff too is it is significantly more accurate than the breathalyzers. But it has to be done straight away.
Yeah.
Because it's like a ticking clock. Every minute, every hour that they waste not checking them, it changes.
Right.
And since it doesn't matter what they were like when they were driving the vehicle, if they get a blood test and they're under, then they're free in the clear.
Right.
So like I said, I do understand where they come from, but usually in order to actually get the blood test, you have to refuse the breathalyzer. In most states, if you get pulled over for driving under the influence of anything, and you refuse a breathalyzer, then it's an automatic. Then they have to take you to the police station or whatever their protocol is, the hospital or whatever, and they have to get your blood tested.
Yeah, I feel like that should not be allowed. I feel like the integrity of your person, even with a warrant, I feel like you shouldn't be compelled to.
No, they
give
should.
blood.
They should have to. They should have to get a warrant.
I think even if they get a warrant, they shouldn't be allowed.
They can usually tell, like if you're drunk. Like for example, let's just use someone being way over the limit, being drunk. There are plenty of ways to tell if they're drunk or not.
Yeah.
Like they have to. And in fairness, they do show reasonable calls. But yes, I can totally see where people would think that, hey, they legalized marijuana. The other reason, too, is just money, honestly.
Yeah.
It brings a lot of money.
Yeah.
And also, too, you're putting people in jail for sitting around getting high, eating Doritos. I mean,
right.
It's like at some point, it's just cheaper to take taxes from it and not put them in jail. Because, you put them in jail for getting high. They're going to come out even harder than they were when they went in because, you can murder someone in certain states and you get less of a sentence than you do for drugs.
No, I agree.
So,
I mean, I don't think that weed should be illegal. That's not what I meant to say.
Oh, I know that.
Like, you should be put in.
You should have more
rehab
options available to you. Yeah. But the problem is like I said, there is currently no actual way to test if someone is high from drugs without a blood test. Like,
right. But that's
I'm
why
sure that day will come.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet.
But that's why they need to make drawing blood even with a warrant illegal unless it's like a medical operation, and then that forces the private sector to come up with a solution and sell it to the cops because they don't have an option. That's really what it is.
I mean, it sucks for them, but it's just the way it is.
Anyway, I don't know. We're kind of getting weird now.
It's fine. It's the Off Topical podcast. It's what we do. But yeah, the whole just sharing DNA without a warrant, and also too, I cannot believe that that's actually legal just from a terms of service perspective. Like, I honestly cannot believe that it's valid, but apparently it's valid.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's so strange. What do you think about this, guys? Do you think that this company has a reason for wanting to just give the FBI this genetic information?
Nope.
Let us know. This is probably going to end up on YouTube. Let us know in the comments. Why are they doing this? If you're not on YouTube, you can head over to the forums, forum.heavyelement.io. Let us know what you think there in the show notes. What you just heard is a highlight from the Off Topical podcast. Listen to the full episode for free over at offtopical.net.